The areas affected by coastal flooding unfortunately span the entire globe. Not many populations will be left untouched when all is said and done, with the continuing effects of climate change, melting ice caps, and the gross amount of carbon emissions. The rising sea levels specifically caused by melting ice caps and the more amounts of carbon trapped in the water mean that many coastal populations are at risk in the near future. In the United States alone, areas from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco and even Harvard University could all be noticeably affected. These metropolitan regions could have neighborhoods or even entire cities underwater, creating unlivable conditions, unstable infrastructure, and serious financial costs to the states and federal governments. People around the world from coastal Africa to Southeast Asia, which carry populations in the high millions, are also very at risk. If we don't make honest efforts at combating climate change and the rising sea levels, global disbursement of our population will shift dramatically. Some cities are already taking preventative measures, such as building infrastructure meant to deter the effects of rising sea levels. Other areas who have already been hit by storms or floods have resorted to building on stilts, such as in New Orleans or in Indonesia. In fact, in Indonesia, after the typhoon of Christmas Day several years ago, coastal cities' infrastructure has changed rapidly. Most buildings now have ground floors with open walls, allowing water to pass through and not damage important materials on higher floors.
Though climate change is naturally occurring, the unprecedented increased rate of temperature rise can be attributed to the unnatural emission of greenhouse gases, most significantly carbon emissions. The most significant contributors to greenhouse gases are transportation and the grid. Transportation includes everything from freight and passenger trains, airplanes, and the automobile. The grid pertains to our electricity consumption. How does the use of technology relate? Our appliances and personal electric devices constantly use energy. Personal devices such as laptop computers and cellular telephones consume energy from the grid even when not plugged in. This is due to the constant powering of the vast infrastructure used to keep our communication devices operating. In addition to power consumption when turned on, everything from televisions to toasters continue to use energy even when powered off, simply from being plugged in. Anything that is plugged into an outlet will continue to drain energy. This small but constant use of energy is called phantom energy. Even our cell phone chargers that we often leave plugged in all day continue to use electricity without a phone. Anthropogenic climate change is a chronic problem caused by everyone, by our habits and lifestyles, by our wasteful use of electricity and resources, and by our unsustainable practices. Renewable energy sources such as new technologies in solar and wind power can offset our emissions and minimize our effect on the world.
The micro-impacts on Vietnam's vanishing wetlands from coastal flooding and Louisiana's disappearing coast. Understanding climate change means focusing on the minuet. You might not be able to see a football field of wetlands disappear every half an hour, but you can talk to somebody who has watched as a canal or bayou has gradually crept up on their property and listen as they explain their dilemma of whether to move or put their house up or on stilts. In Kanjiu, scientists are sending out local villagers with measurement tools to keep an eye on the levels of salt water near the mangrove trees. Scientists are also lobbying the government not to develop the area, which would mean tearing down the mangroves to find new places for people in a growing city to live. These are all smaller developments, but they help keep document increments of change, as well as behind-the-scenes solutions which could have bigger impact as time goes by. Then, when a natural disaster does strike, you have a unique understanding of the impact and response. You have a solid contact you can return to, and you are equipped to cover the situation in a much more holistic way instead of just seeing it as a tragedy. Increased usage of automobiles and air-emitting pollution transportation vehicles causes a warming of our atmosphere from the amount of CO2 released into the air. Reducing our dependence and usage of CO2-emitting vehicles would considerably lower the overall temperature of our planet. Reducing the amount of waste we produce would lessen the amount of carbon emissions, and overall colder temperature would not melt ice caps at the rate like today.
So did you get all that?
Yeah,